The fintech landscape in Africa is evolving rapidly. Over the years, many fintech products have emerged on the continent, each presenting its own unique offerings and challenges. In this episode, I sit with Philip Twum, a dynamic leader in the fintech sector whose expertise in this space makes him the perfect guest to take us through the journey of African fintech, where it started, where we are now, and what the future is likely to be. Enjoy this episode. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to the Tech Sub podcast where we navigate today's tech wave one electrifying conversation at a time. I am your host Raymond Klutse, and today I have a big brother that I have admired for a long time. I went to the same uni with him, and he's what we call an aura. You know, he's always had that aura with him back in the day, and today is very nice to have him on the pod to have a discussion around a very interesting intersection of his career. In fact, I actually didn't even imagine that he was going to be in the tech space based on what I knew he was doing at the time. But I'll let him give all the due. But today we have Philip Twum to come and have a great discussion with us on the exploring the African fintech landscape. So Philip, thank you so much for making time to join us.
Yeah, Raymond, it's my pleasure. Honestly, you guys make me feel old when you call me a big brother. Yeah, but I'm really excited to do this. I mean, it's something I've been
Mm.
looking forward to since we spoke about it. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Looking forward.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Well, give honor to whom honor is due. So come on. I mean, like I said, you've always had the aura, but we'll get into the details. Okay. So if you can, in the shortest amount of time, should someone stop you on the road, maybe in a few words, who is Philip Chu?
Mm. So uh, I'm a one-time accountant and tech consultant. That's the summary.
Okay.
I can go a bit deeper if you don't mind. So I studied business administration in the uni. I started my career with KPMG, awesome firm. I started a career in audit, and then I became a chartered accountant within my first year. And after that, I just I just kind of had so much time on my hands, because doing your ACCA just kind of takes your whole life away. Weekends, after
Mm,
work, before work, you're studying like 24/7 apart from work.
all right.
So it's either you're working or you're studying. So once I was done, I mean, I seemed to have too much time on my hands, and I started reading a lot. Like, thank
Mm,
God information is free. So I came across a lot of things on tech. At the time, it was more blockchain tech and all of that. And I realized that the guys I knew in tech didn't know anything about it. So this was early 2017, 2016, and in there about, yeah. So
mm,
what happened? I started doing presentations on some of those at work. I started writing because I have some writing skills. Yeah, I wrote articles. Some were published. Some I had some invitations to speak about some of these things on radio and etc. Yeah.
mm,
So long story short, I found myself in IT advisory, still with KPMG. So
mm,
I became a tech consultant, and within my first year, it was quite clear that I was pretty good at it as well. And I mean, it's something I'm always grateful to God for. So I realized I
mm,
was really good at the IT consulting stuff. Within a year, I was leading my own service line, digital transformation. We did strategy for digital transformation strategy for banks, other financial institutions, etc. During that time, I tested my hands on a few projects, like side projects. Many of them never
mm.
launched, which is the usual story. Many never launched. There was one that launched, which was my card. So it spelled my CRD. Yeah. I did that with
Right.
some of our friends, which you know. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually had him on Joe Clo and
Uh,
a few others. Yeah,
Unfortunately,
I've had on
half
the
of the
pod.
team relocated to the UK, and so
Yeah.
we really didn't like take it forward. But the app is
Right.
still on the Google Play Store. So basically,
Right.
it's a digital business card. So business people don't need to print out hard copy cards. They can exchange them, manage them, etc. digitally. Yeah. So that was
Mm,
one. Currently, I'm working on another side project with my wife. Now, this one is born out
Oh.
of our own pain, right? Like, I know in the UK and in the West, usually when it comes to grooming, like you're able to book your sessions. So imagine a
Mm,
lady going to do braids and she gets there and someone, let's say someone is waiting and there's
right.
another person who is being served, right? That's like an easy 5 hours. If you
Right.
have kids at home as a man, you're in trouble.
Right.
So those 5 hours can be like hell because, I mean,
Right.
children can be a handful. Yeah, so we
Mm,
help each other. So when one person is out for long, it's crazy. While it
mm,
looks like booking is the obvious solution, it's hard to get people to change behavior, right? So
mm.
we started by building something, a simple app that just lets you know how many people are there. So that's what we
Wow.
built. So you can just check at any time. It's like your groomer in your hand. You can always know how busy the grooming salon is, and whether it's a barber shop
Mm.
or the hairdressing salon or the other one, which is the kids salon. My goodness, I took my daughter to get braids like a month ago. I spent like three
Right.
hours in the queue. It was crazy. So
No.
yeah, this is our
Mm,
pain. So we built something
mm,
to solve that. Maybe later on we'll think
mm.
about grooming, but would definitely sorry booking, but would definitely have to get that from people. Like people say, oh no,
Right.
I can check and get there, and someone else, like the number changes, so I want to book it now, and probably will do that. So yeah,
Right.
that's me. Career wise, I've moved on from KPMG for the past 1 year. I'm like an independent technology consultant. So I help
Mm,
businesses, tech businesses with their business strategy, with
mm,
their product launches, building their products, So it's kind of like the whole life cycle from ideation, shaping up the idea, helping, like just
mm.
increasing their chances of success. Yeah. So I've worked with
Right.
a couple of companies and that's what I do now.
Right. Well, I told you guys he's an aura, right? So I didn't have to tell you all about the G's. He told it all. Okay, so whenever someone decides to read business administration or finance or something, I always want to know, was money always the motivation? Was it just to become rich, or there was really something that was pushing you to want to get into accounting? Because I wouldn't want to believe that one will wake up and say accounting is my passion.
Well, it will surprise you that accounting was a passion for me. Yeah,
Okay,
it
maybe.
was. And I guess it started from high school,
Mm,
just the subjects that you kind of do well in. You kind of have a knack for it. And
okay.
yeah, you go on like
Mm,
that. Yeah, so for me, that's how it started. But then, of course, I mean, where we are in Africa, money is always a big deal. So you
sure
feel
is.
more comfortable when you're closer to the money. Yeah,
Right.
but I mean, growing up, you realize that accounting isn't one of the most rewarding careers. But yeah, so it's a mix of it. I mean, you want to be closer to the money. You probably like accounting. It's something that many people struggle with. So you kind of feel like you have a superpower. But yeah,
Mm,
I mean, the whole
right.
world has shifted towards like it's now more of tech in that light. Like it's not everyone who understands tech, and then when you are in there, you feel like more in control of things. Like what I'm doing with my
Mm,
wife now, we feel like we are providing a service to people, which probably they didn't even know
mm,
existed. I mean, everybody knows about
right.
booking, but nobody knew that where
Right.
there isn't booking, you would want to check before you move out. Yeah,
Right. Right. Okay. So, every time new technology comes into the market, people always say that Africa is lagging behind because of the lack of infrastructure or the lack of the basic things that the people in the West do
precisely.
have. Exactly. And now financial technology, or in short, fintech, has come a long way. And in the African market, we are having people who are trying their hands on a lot of
Hmm.
things. Now, I have seen a few articles, people try and fail, a lot of things happen here and there. Let's talk a little bit about financial technology as, mirroring that with, traditional banking and all that. And if the future for this kind of technology in Africa, like in the African continent, is promising
Right.
in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think definitely comparing fintech to traditional financial services, fintech is clearly preferred because it's digital. You don't need to be in a place physically. Um, it's convenient. Most of the times, it's not very expensive, right? So definitely, it's preferred over the traditional. 10 years ago, probably everyone thought fintechs were going to just kick banks out and we wouldn't see them by
Mm.
now. But
Right.
today, the story out there is collaboration because we need the best of both worlds, right? We definitely need our banks. I'll tell you what, during the COVID-19 pandemic, most of the new or digital banks, began to struggle because the traditional banks have trust. I mean, when
Right.
everything goes wrong digitally, you go back to your traditional
Right.
bank. Yeah, so
Right.
it was there that, I mean, that was exposed. That, I mean, definitely
Mm.
people would trust their traditional bank better than their new
Mm.
bank or, I mean, whatever platform. When things were getting bad, when things are getting bad, you just take your money off those platforms and you move it to
Right.
your traditional bank. Yeah. So definitely fintech is ahead, but one thing that fintech may not have over the traditional financial space is trust. So now when we talk about collaboration, you see the best of both worlds, and that works for everyone.
Mm.
I can't
Mm.
say for 20 years from now or another 10 years from now, but currently that's the story. I mean, it's collaboration.
Mm.
Um, Now, just to touch a little bit on the African perspective, you'll see like a rapid adoption of fintech in Africa,
Mm.
and it's for a
Mm.
number of reasons. I can give you about four or five. Um, Firstly, Africa has a youthful population. Like as of 2022, 40% of us were below 15 years. Compare that to an average of 25% across the world. I mean, you can
Right.
imagine the number of brains, the youthful talent, and etc.
Right.
that we would have in
Right.
like the next 10 years. I mean, even in our
Right.
generation, more than half of us have already left, and I mean, we are working abroad and etc.
Mm.
So, like, there's a whole pipeline of young people coming up in Africa, and these people were born within the digital time. I mean, they were born when there were
Mm.
mobile apps. As they were kids, they saw people using mobile apps and all of that. Um,
Right.
Web applications. So even those people without an education, they already have
Right.
a feel for those things, right? So definitely the future would be fintech here, as in people would easily like adopt those. So what we've seen now is nothing compared to what's coming. And when I think about it on a larger scale, I think our governments and our leadership needs to really, really have like a talent development plan for us or the kids
Right.
coming up.
Right.
Otherwise, we're going to lose them
Right.
as well. Yeah. So those,
Right.
I mean, that's one of the things that play to the rapid adoption and growth of fintech here. The second thing is the agent networks. So unlike abroad, here we we kind of see a faster growth in fintech because we have agent networks. So these agents are like assistants, for people to consume fintech services. Definitely, I can't talk about fintech in Africa without mentioning mobile money.
Mm.
So in Africa, you see so many of these like mini banks. They are just like a kiosk and one
Mm.
person in there. What does the person do?
Right.
That person is the agent and he helps you like do a transfer. He helps you withdraw your money and etc. Currently, we have a poor literacy rate. So most people, most of the population would go to an agent to do that. Of course, within our generation, people wouldn't necessarily go there, but almost everyone else
Maybe they'll
uses an
choose.
agent.
Yeah. 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 Maybe they'll choose the chic one, like the express
Yeah,
pays and other kind of
yeah,
stuff, which are
yeah,
equally,
yeah. But
right.
most of the population is those who would use an agent. So the agent networks really help. I mean, if they were not there, many people will be scammed. Many people will be taken advantage of and etc. And in the beginning, it was like that. But now
Mm.
the agents are all over. I mean, if I walk out of my house now, I can see about two of them. So that has
Mm.
really helped. It's play to the rapid adoption of fintech. Then the other one is internet penetration. Well, it's not very great in Africa, but compare 9.6% penetration in 2010 to 33%
Mm.
in 2021. Like that's
Right.
quite a jump, you know.
Right.
33% doesn't look too impressive, but they're obviously leaders. So one country I can give as an example is Morocco. In 2023, their internet penetration was at 88% in Africa.
Wow.
88%. Ghana is not
Wow.
so far behind. I mean,
Mm.
um, at the same time, Ghana is at 68%. So the
Okay.
same 68% in internet penetration that we have is the same for smartphone adoption because
Right.
about 99% of internet users are using a smartphone. Yeah, so
Right.
um, internet helps. Then we also have the smartphone adoption. It's at
Mm.
68%
Right.
for obvious reasons.
Right.
Then the last thing I can talk about is investment flows. So we've seen a lot of funding come to Africa. It's like over the last decade, the West just woke up to Africa and we've seen a lot of
Mm.
funding. So in 2018, total funding was about 500 million to Africa. That's 2018. Now, just a few years later, 2022, we're looking at 5 billion, $5 billion
Mm.
in funding. So the fintech startups are being funded. Of
Mm.
course, this year has dropped. Sorry, 2023 has dropped a little because of, I mean, general financial problems across the world. Yeah.
Right.
So there was kind of
Right.
like a mini recession. So we saw the numbers
Right.
drop. But even that, it was at 3.4 billion dollars. Yeah. So
Right.
that's that's quite remarkable coming from
Mm.
2018 at 500 million, you know. So all
Right.
of these play to the rapid adoption of fintech. Just to recap, youthful population, agent networks,
Mm.
internet
Mm.
penetration, smartphone adoption, and then the investment flow. So yeah, in a
Right.
nutshell, that's what I'll say.
Right. I actually like how you've outlined that. Now, we're talking about Africa, 54 countries. I hope I have not taken anyone out. And each of them with their own currency, and we compare that to the US where it's a whole like states, right? And and one currency. So cross border or cross
Yeah,
state payment is rather easy. And then we come to Europe or like the European Union, well, before Brexit and all. I mean, like there was still the there was still the pound sterling, even though there was a euro. But we're talking about these unions or these countries that have a unified currency, and it makes some of these fintech products easy to move from one border to
yeah,
the other. And then you come to a continent where everyone has their own unique
yeah,
regulation, currency, and all that. Would you say that is affecting or that is getting in the way of a cross-border like cross-border
trade,
fintech product or
yeah,
trade in Africa? And how is technology, or how are we going to be able to accelerate that possibly in the future?
yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's a challenge. I'll tell you what. It's
Mm.
not just the currency. In fact, the market structures are different. You can have
Mm.
a fintech product in Ghana where I mean you're using the agent network as your distribution. You go to
Mm.
Nigeria and then it's something else and you're shocked. You're like, I thought these people were the same. You go to South Africa, it's something else. Maybe over there it's just the
Mm.
banking system. So you need to build something around the banking system. You go somewhere else, then it's like USSD. You need to build a USSD. So it's like although even so let me say in addition to different currencies there's also different market structures and then
Mm.
I mean then regulation like we're saying some areas or some countries have regulation some don't some frown on technology some are happy to welcome you and all of that so scaling a fintech business across Africa is quite a difficult thing to do because of all of these barriers. Um,
Mm.
Having said that, in terms of a unified currency. I think since I was a kid, they've been talking about some echo or something. So just to let you
Right.
know, I'm in my 30s. There's no echo coming.
Wow, there was so much hope there.
There's
Right.
no echo coming. Well,
Mm,
that's from my
mm,
perspective. Even
right.
to make matters worse, right? When we talk about this African continental free trade area
Mm,
and the free trade agreements and etc., there's actually a payment system that has been built to facilitate that cross continent or
but right.
inter country trade.
Trade in Africa.
Now, this platform is called PAPS, and it's been
Mm,
built such that it would accommodate multiple currencies. That's to give you an idea that
mm,
there's nothing coming like an echo or a single African
right.
currency. Like everybody is fixed in their ways, and the PAPS is trying to build some sort of exchange kind of thing where you can pay
Right.
someone in Nigeria with Ghana CD, and the person will receive the Nigerian naira and etc.
Mm,
So a single currency, I doubt that is coming. How would that be solved? It's already solved. Like at the moment, it's already solved by um, using stable coins. So cryptocurrencies
mm,
that are pegged to another asset. Usually is the US dollar.
mm,
So
mm,
if you trade with stable coins, I mean, that already has a network. You don't need to build anything.
mm,
You just probably need to put an app on top of it, and
right.
it makes trade easy. I mean, I can send
Mm,
you money now using the blockchain, and you will receive it in like
mm,
5 minutes. Okay, and it's a
mm,
currency probably that we would all accept, which we are still trying to fight in Africa. We say we don't
mm,
like the
mm,
dollar. Everybody
mm,
needs to use their own currency. But clearly,
mm,
those challenges or those hurdles will remain. I mean, if we all have
mm,
different currencies, we have 54 countries. Everyone has their
mm,
own currency. I mean, it's crazy for
mm,
business, and that's
mm,
why
right.
in the West and in the UK, sorry, the European Union, etc., trade will always be easier there, because
Mm,
one currency does a
mm,
lot of magic. Yeah.
right.
So it can be solved, but blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, Web3, all of those come with their own regulatory challenges, which I think
Right.
by and by we would come around and accept that.
Right. I was actually like that was going to even segue into my next question around, the whole blockchain and that kind of stuff. When I heard crypto, I heard about crypto online. I saw people, buying crypto and everything. And then you see people have the smiles after buying crypto. And then when it drops, they have all, like people say, I'm not going to get back into that kind of stuff. If you can, as much as possible to an African or to people who are in Africa who are, afraid of this form of like digital currency, if you can demystify what it is and how people can use that or leverage that
Okay.
to be able to enter into some
Okay.
markets, that'll be very
Okay. Let me
great.
try and do that very briefly. So when we talk about cryptocurrencies, they are virtual currencies, and they all
Mm,
run on a network, and the network is called a blockchain. Think about
mm,
it like mobile money. Okay. So we know that the mobile money network is controlled by MTN. So
all
take that
right.
as the blockchain. Okay.
Mm,
Now, the CDs you see on your mobile money wallet, take that as the virtual currency, which is the crypto. Okay. So if you break it down that way, crypto is just like mobile money, right? You
right.
can send that to anyone. You can receive it. You don't need any intermediary. You can do all of that on the blockchain, which is the network it runs on. Now, when we talk about people losing money and etc., it depends on what cryptocurrency you are using or what service you are using. Because, like I
Mm,
mentioned before, there's stable coins. Stable coins are stable. That's what they are, because
mm,
they are pegged to like the US dollar or another asset, right? If you are using stable coins, you wouldn't have those challenges. Unless, of course, like MTN collapses in the case of mobile money. Then, if
mm,
something happens to the person who, issues the stable coins, then you're in trouble. But I mean, these have been around, especially like the bigger and popular ones like USDT, USDC, they've been around for long and we haven't seen
Mm,
any of that. Even MTN mobile money, we just use the longevity to say that, yeah, everything is fine there. So,
mm,
in terms of absolute zero risk, I don't think you'll find it anywhere in the crypto space, but you are safer with
right.
stable coins. The
Mm,
disadvantage with stable coins, if you are looking to increase your money, is it wouldn't increase rapidly. It would only increase by the amount of depreciation your local currency has. So you'll find people in
oh,
Ghana saving in dollars because when they save in dollars, I mean, over the years, it's like they preserve the value of their earnings, right? If you
right,
save in a stable coin, it's a similar thing. So as long
same,
as your currency is
right.
depreciating, it would increase, right? Um, those are stable coins. Now the traditional cryptocurrencies, those are valued by demand and supply. Okay.
Mm,
So if anyone is going into buying those cryptocurrencies or investing in them, I would advise you to understand how the market moves, right? So, like,
mm,
there's an observed cycle of cryptocurrencies. There's the bear market, the bear market, and the bull market, right? If you don't understand some of these basic things, I would advise you not to enter because there is a good buying time and there's a bad buying
mm,
time. Most people will buy
mm,
at the bad time because the bad buying time comes with noise and euphoria
mm,
and high prices and multiples of
mm,
money multiplying. And you hear people talking about how they've multiplied their money and they'll be showing their balance and all of that. I mean, that's a crazy time.
right,
And that's not the time to
right,
buy because that's when everything
right,
goes up, and all that goes up must come down. It applies in
right.
crypto as well. Yeah. So, simple
Mm,
advice: if you want to solve like payments problems, maybe across the continent, into other continents,
mm,
etc., crypto would be good for you in terms of stable coins.
mm,
If you want to make investments, do not go to cryptocurrencies unless you
mm,
understand the cycles and
mm,
how the market moves. Yeah. So, having said
right.
all of that, it's not to pose as a financial advice. This is not financial
Mm,
advice. It's just
mm.
for education and entertainment purposes. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Now let's talk about the new kid on the block. The famous, I don't know what to call him, Andrew Ivan, or for the lack of a better word, AI. Just gave him a name there. AI has come, and the funny thing is, as techies who are building these products, whenever we talk about AI, we always talk about AI coming for jobs like the lawyer's
Yeah.
job, coming for even maybe we'll get into fintech and how AI is going to disrupt
Yeah.
that and all that. But even as techies, we still don't tend to forget that the AI people are actually creating AI to help us
Yeah.
work because Copilot or and others that are GitHub and all that kind of stuff, they have other agents that are helping us work. So AI is here. AI seems to be the talk. Everyone has a domain.ai, blah blah blah, and all that. What does the fintech space look like in terms of AI? Are we going to see another revolution in terms of AI changing a lot of things? Are we going to see the birth of a different digital asset as a result? Are fintechs going to be boosted by virtue of AI, or are they going to have also their own challenges? Let's talk AI and fintech. What is that looking
Yeah.
like at the
I think
moment?
generally it brings value to almost everything. So fintech
Mm,
is no exception. I'll tell you what, I wrote an article in 2019 and I called it a glimpse into the future with fintech, right? And I went back to read that article yesterday, and anybody can read it. It's on my LinkedIn. Search
all
Philip
right,
Twum, ACCA.
all
You
right,
find you find that I've put it in my featured, so you see it at the top.
all right, all right.
It's interesting how that article was written because I went back to read it now, and it makes more sense to me. Because at the time, I was speaking out of my imagination, okay?
Mm,
And I think what's really hit the nail on the head for me was the part in the beginning where I was given like a scenario of someone's everyday life,
all
how
right,
the future will be with fintech. And most of the
all right.
things that I refer to are AI. enabled stuff. So like the robo
Right.
advisor, that thing today, everyone understands that a robo advisor is definitely AI. Like that's AI at work, you know. Then your wealth manager, I spoke about the person's kids going to school and he needed to put some credit on their wearables and all of that. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
when I look at it, definitely fintech is going to enhance fintech. Sorry, AI is going to enhance fintech. So we
Right.
talk about fraud monitoring as well.
Mm.
AI will find patterns like fraud patterns and would
Mm.
be able to curtail them before they
Mm.
materialize. Okay, those are the easy
Mm.
ones. Then there's KYC as well. KYC is know your customer, right? Um,
Mm.
it's what happens when you are signing up to a new app and they ask you for your ID
Mm.
card and all of that. That whole process, it can be managed by AI. Currently, most
Mm.
platforms have individuals who are reviewing those documents. And you'll find that
Right.
for some platforms, when you sign up, it takes a while before they tell you are verified. Some can take
Mm.
days. I mean, depending on how long it takes, it shows you what kind of work is
Mm.
being done at the back. If they are
Done.
leveraging a lot
Right.
of technology, then it's like
Mm.
10 minutes and then they say you're verified. Yeah.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Mm.
AI will help with KYC as well. We may get to a time where, I mean, KYC is done in just about a minute or two. Yeah.
Right.
So, my view on AI in fintech, AI is going to enhance fintech, definitely.
Right. Right. Okay. As one who has a very robust financial background, who has also found himself in technology and now working as an independent technology consultant, how would you say technology has had a great impact or change in your personal life? Maybe you can mirror that from your personal life, maybe family, your everyday
Yeah.
life into what you're currently doing. How has technology changed the way you see
Hmm.
life?
Honestly, understanding technology makes you feel in control. Yeah, that's one thing for sure. In my
Mm.
life, what I've realized is like I'm always looking I'm always looking at problems, like the problems that technology can solve. Like it's like I
Mm.
have an antenna that is just it's just working, unlike
Right.
before. And I think that's
Mm.
something that every technologist may have. Maybe because I am a consultant is more like that. Maybe a software developer may not really think that way, but wherever I go, like now I'm looking at how to solve problems around me, and that's
Mm.
one big change I've seen since joining tech like a number of years
Mm.
ago. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And based on all of that, what has been like some of your biggest challenges?
Mhm.
Now, one, okay, someone will be listening and saying, "Oh, he just like he finished his ACCA early and said he loved reading, so he started reading, and then he delved a bit into technology and all." I had a series on pivoting careers, and every time I had someone on, they always had, that breaking point, that period where, okay, this is like a new field altogether. What am I doing? Is challenging. If you can walk us through some of those times in this
Yeah.
whole transition into an intersection of, finance
Hmm.
or like your finance background and
Hmm.
tech.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. When I started in technology consulting, I could tell that like the the older guys, will not really trust your abilities. Yeah, I
Mm,
I I had to deal with that. It was quite subtle, but like you can tell that the older colleagues, always kind of ah, he's just trying to join. Yeah,
mm,
but then what I realized was, especially in the consulting space, it has more to do with business than like writing code or something of that sort as a
mm,
consultant. Yeah,
right.
it's bringing it's bringing business to technology. And
Mm,
I also realized that many people didn't have that. And it includes simple things like being able to explain concepts simply, being able to write a
mm,
report that the board of directors can relate to, and etc. And I saw that it was lacking a lot in that space. Like It was lacking a
Mm,
lot. So those kind of things helped me to be more comfortable. Okay. And then within like a year, I realized that now I'm actually good at this consulting thing. So
mm,
I didn't let that bother me anymore. And I think eventually they begin to realize that well he's quite good, he's quite decent at it, yeah. And then
mm,
eventually I started leading a service line, and I held my
mm,
own, yeah. So I did have that struggle, but it was a bit easier because in the consulting space, no one is actually writing code there. Okay, no one is writing
mm.
code. It's just
Right.
people who studied like computer science and etc. in uni, and that's the difference between you and them. Because on the experience
Mm,
side, we were getting it together. Like all of us were getting
mm,
the experience side together, and most of
mm,
the um, kind of assignments you're on, it's hardly something like you've done for years, because it's always a new challenge.
mm.
It's always something new,
Right.
right? So if you
Mm,
are able to bring that business aspect of it to the table, your work is easier.
mm,
Sometimes you get into a job or an engagement and you are just like the client. The client doesn't know anything about
mm.
what's going on.
Right.
And you also don't know
Right.
anything about what's going on. But
But you have to figure it out.
yeah, but because of your skill and your background and
Mm,
etc., you are the one who would
right.
solve that problem for the client,
Right.
and that's what makes you
Right.
a consultant. It's being able to
Mm,
think on your feet. It's being able to solve problems quickly. It's being able
mm,
to address new challenges as if it's something you've done your whole life. And it's a skill
mm,
you develop, even in the way you speak
mm,
and etc. Like you need to inspire confidence when you're talking to
mm,
someone. Probably both of you are facing a challenge for the first time, but the person has so much confidence in you, and that alone pushes you to be the best. I mean, you'll be the
mm.
best for your client, and you solve their problems.
Right.
And
Right.
the more you complete jobs like that and you solve people's problems, and they are pleased with your work and etc., it gives you confidence, and
Mm,
it helps you
mm,
to grow in that space as well. So for me
mm,
it was quite fast, if I would say,
mm,
yeah, it was quite fast moving into technology and holding my own. And I think
mm,
it's because in my field we really don't write code. You
mm.
grow to understand the work of a developer, you grow to understand the tools they
Right.
use, you grow to understand like the architecture of applications, you learn
Mm,
all of those things. So it's like you
right.
know everything about writing code or coding without being able to code.
Right.
And that's what will make you a
Right.
good consultant, yeah. So
Right.
that was my field, and it's probably different
Mm,
from the others who went into the very technical things, right? But I think
right.
at some point I would learn to code because right now I feel like I know so much apart from
Mm,
doing the thing itself. So
right.
it's something I've
Right.
been considering for a while, yeah. Of course, the no code
And
tools and etc. help you to do things, but I
yeah,
think everyone I've come across
you want to get your hands
I think
dirty.
everyone I've come across who writes code kind of has this idea that like they have a certain superpower that you don't have, and they look at you in a certain way.
Developers always do that. Don't mind them. But I mean, like to even add to that, one of the reasons why I started this podcast is to demystify some of the misconceptions about
Yeah,
tech. You're right. You are clearly also working in the tech field, which is rarely an intersection people talk about. Like I know, like since we've spoken about the whole tech thing, the word that we've mentioned most is code. But I have come to even see in my entire, tech journey that code is actually even the last thing most of the time that even, like it's on the mind of a lot of
I agree with
businesses.
you.
Because yes, because at the end of the day, it's solving that particular problem. But I know, when you go to a typical computer science or IT course, they'll just throw it into your face, learn how to do
Yeah.
Java, system architecture. All that is great. But after building that very robust, well
Hmm.
skilled system or infrastructure in the cloud or on prem and all that, is it really solving the problem? And I guess that's where people like you have that superpower. So we both have superpowers that we are
Yeah,
we are
yeah,
not
I agree with
we are
you.
not acknowledging. But yeah, but I think yeah, learning how to code also comes in hand because I actually even want to even get to do more of the things that you are doing free, the consulting, understanding, because based on my technical background, how can I translate that into a business
You need it.
world and help
You
this
need
like
it.
help.
So I was
I
having
need
a
it. Yeah.
conversation with one CEO I know recently, and
Right.
the problem, I mean, they are facing now is they have very old um, software developers, and
Mm,
these guys probably they didn't transition well from writing code to um, manage leading teams and etc. Yeah.
mm, mm,
So I was just talking about it that I think everyone who writes code, as they grow in their careers, they should begin to learn things like team management. They should begin
mm,
to develop managerial skills. They should look a little bit into product management so that you step out of the
mm,
code and kind of learn more of product and business and lead
right.
engineers in that space as well. Maybe that's the first step,
Right.
and then after that,
Mm,
so that includes being a scrum master and all those other fancy things.
right.
And then after
Right.
that, you build to become like a leader, and that's like taking
Mm,
another step back out of product and now leading like a whole institution or something. But I've
mm,
seen elderly engineers as well who don't really fancy that. So I think you can't force it on
mm,
everyone, but the
mm,
natural flow when I look at things as you mature is probably you should learn those business skills as well. Just like
mm,
me,
mm.
an older consultant, now thinking, I think at
Training
this
about
point I should
code.
learn some code.
I
Yeah.
understand. I understand. Now, people have this misconception that techies are boring. Maybe others also debunk it because, people lately are on social media showing, techies are on social media showing a bit of the fun part of their lives. Walk us through, what a fun part of your life looks like away from all the reading, all the writing, all the speaking engagements and all that. I know you're a father, you are a husband as well. What does life look like away from, how do you unplug,
So
basically, your fun,
actually, what I was
the
going to
fun bits of
say
Philip?
at this point in my life, apart from work and reading and all of that, is the gym, swimming with my daughter,
Mm,
and spending time with the
mm,
family, which could be
right.
boring. But yeah, I attend some parties here and there when I'm invited. In the fintech space, there are lots of mixers and this going on, that going on. But when
Right.
you
Right.
have like a full family, you can't really do
It
too much
doesn't.
of that. Yeah. So
Right.
I do a little bit of that. And so I haven't seen the boring side of techies actually, because there's always one
Mm,
one thing here or another, like one get
mm,
together here, one
right.
party here, one crypto mixer,
Right.
one fintech mixer. They call it so many different things.
Right.
They are going for a party.
I know. I know.
Well,
They're
there's
just
some
going for a
talk,
party
there's
to
some
have fun.
forum or
Right.
something, webinar,
But it's
and then
it's it's that end part of the party that
yeah,
they're all
yeah.
looking
So I
for, where
think that
they just
has that
get
that
to.
brings some life to the space. But I would tend to agree with people who, I mean, I can see their perspective if they say techies are boring, because surprisingly, when you go for those events, you hardly find like people who write code there. It's more it's more of
Mm,
like the entrepreneurs, the business people, the product managers. At that time, the software engineers are writing code. I actually, like, I am so sure. I'm so sure.
right.
So yeah, I
Right.
mean, if you are someone who is an engineer, just learn to go out. I mean, learn to
Mm,
socialize, and it also helps with the management skills.
mm,
I've seen so many scenarios with my clients where like you are making a presentation to a potential customer or a potential like client for them, and the software engineer doesn't want to say anything. Like, he doesn't even want to say a word.
mm,
Some of them even struggle to bring up issues to the product team. Like, they want their leader to,
mm,
it's really not good. So if you are one of those people, please take advantage of all the mixes that are held around. Go out, speak to people. I mean, it wouldn't take more
Mm,
than 3 hours of your time. And so, yeah,
mm.
I would advise that techies go out and mingle.
All right. I'm going to put you on the spot on this one. I know I've not given you any heads up, but if you had a magic wand to solve a problem in the finance space with technology, on the top of your head, what would it be?
I think it will be currency depreciation in Africa. That will be it.
Mm.
Because
If you can
the
expound a little
impact
bit.
is pervasive. Like it affects every single thing. Um, we've seen it in Ghana, we've seen it in Nigeria. Let me give you an example. So your currency depreciates. Probably you received $100,000 in funding from someone. You are supposed to be reporting
Mm,
revenue figures to the person. Your revenue is actually
mm,
doubling and tripling annually. But then when you see the trend in
mm,
dollars, it's just like, oh, 20% growth, 5% growth, 10% growth. And you're like, what? We're actually doing business here. Like we are multiplying our
mm,
revenue and etc. But it doesn't reflect,
mm, mm,
That's one. The
mm,
second one is inflation. I mean, prices of things are just off the charts. Like in Ghana, in Nigeria, everywhere there's currency depreciation. It's just crazy. So
mm.
for me, I think that's one of our biggest problems in Africa. So a magic wand, maybe that's what I'll look at.
Right. Okay. A few people have come into the fintech space and have failed. We've seen a
Yeah,
few stories in Nigeria and other parts of the country, which is why I'm sure a lot of countries are tightening their regulations and all. But there are also young people who are like
yeah,
you, maybe a few years ago, who are finishing business admin, or a techie who has met this business
yeah.
friend of his and they have this fancy idea. Would you say the bar of entry into the fintech space is too high now? And if it is, how can people who have ideas in this space increase their chances
Yeah.
of success? Or are we saturated? Or and no, okay, let me add: have we reached a saturation point? If not, how can entrepreneurs in general be able to increase the chances of success of succeeding
The
in the fintech
barrier, the
space?
barrier of entry or the barrier to entry is really high now, especially in regulated spaces. Like
Mm,
so much is required of you before you can get a license and etc. So
mm,
definitely, yeah, it's difficult, and the time it takes. I mean, the time it takes to secure a license, it's not taking you less than 2 years on average. I mean, it could be faster, but yeah, it takes such a long time. So you imagine you have an idea, you have your prototype, maybe your MVP, you want to launch it and test the market and all of that,
mm,
validate it before you say yes, you have a business, and then now you look to scale it and all of that. That space to do that, or the avenue to do that, is even so difficult. But
mm,
having said that, there are workarounds. Okay, there are workarounds. I think the problem with young people starting businesses is we kind of build the businesses for VCs. We build it for VCs.
mm,
So we have this idea of launch this thing and in 2 months is making X revenue. In 5 months is
mm,
tripled and is 10x, and but in our space in Africa, it doesn't work that way. And even those that
mm.
seem to have done it that way, when you investigate, they started that thing like 3, 4 years underground. They've hustled
Right.
and fought everything until they were funded by someone and it made news, and they make it look like they built this business 6 months ago and it's done this and done that. It's not true. In
Right.
Ghana,
Mm,
for instance, it doesn't work that way. And I wouldn't be surprised that it's no different everywhere else in Africa. So yes, we want to build for the VC kind of thing, and so it makes it very difficult. But if you would be patient and do something like build an MVP and test it and validate it with your market, have a business. I
mm,
mean, you validated your business model. You know how you're making money.
mm,
Maybe you've made a little bit without
mm,
advertising and announcements and making noise about it for regulators to now put their eyes on you. If you are doing like proof of concept kind of stuff, it's usually not a big problem. especially like a controlled user group. You don't. It's not like the whole country, but in your space, you have some users. You are validating the idea, the business model, etc. If you
Mm,
are able to do that
mm,
for like, let's say, 6 months or 1 year, and you really lock that
mm,
down, you can then join like an accelerator or something, or you go and start pitch that validated business to seed investors, or should I say,
mm,
angel investors. Okay. And
mm,
that's where
mm.
attending the mixers and stuff is necessary, because you're better off
Yeah.
meeting these people in person, like your potential investors, etc., showing a validated business idea. You can then raise some money to kind of scale your
Mm,
venture, right? But if you want
mm,
to do it like it's done abroad, you are likely to fail, because
mm,
here nobody is going to fund an idea. In fact,
mm,
hardly do people fund an MVP. So beyond building an MVP, like, the bar is even higher for us. You need to have gone into the market. You need to have validated it.
mm,
Probably showed some signs of revenue coming in. And I mean, that just increases your chances of success. Okay. Because first off,
mm.
you'd you'll be able to raise money easier with
Right.
fairer conditions. And
Mm,
probably it wouldn't be so much money, but it will get you across like the next year or so. And if you really have a solid business idea or a product that people
right.
like want or people use, within that 1 year you can make a lot of grounds. And all of this that I'm saying is
Right.
still staying lean, maybe a 5 member team, 10 member team kind of thing. It's not
Right.
in
Right.
6 months then you
Right.
have a whole floor in the city center, you know, with your brand, screaming in the face of everyone. No, it's not that way. So
Right.
actually, that's
Mm,
that's kind of the journey I guide some of my clients on. So if you are able to do
mm,
that 2 years, by your third year, if what you're doing is really going to be successful, it will be clear. And by then you can
mm,
raise like
mm,
some good money. Like you can raise good money
mm,
still on fairer terms.
mm,
But if you want to do it
mm,
the VC way of in 2 months, you have this amount of money, in 3 months, you've done this, you have 1 million customers. Look, it's different in Africa. I am in tech.
mm.
My daughter's school introduced a mobile application. We're in a WhatsApp group. They
Right.
sent us a link to download it and set up the app. I looked at it with my eyes and I switched the screen and did something else. 2 weeks later, the principal sent me a DM. And once I got that DM, then I was like, okay, now let me download this thing. So
Mm,
generally people like are not out there looking for the next big tech thing. Like,
mm,
people are just a little bit adamant. Like, you need to literally
mm,
beg them to
mm,
even test it out.
mm,
Okay. It's not like in the
mm,
West. I mean, in the West, you can build a good product, put it on product hunt, people will start downloading it. You have all these numbers, you can go and show it to some VC, you can show it to some investor here. You have these number of users, etc. Here it's not like that. People don't just adopt technology. So you need to go
mm.
slow and steady. And slow and steady wins the race.
Right.
It actually does,
Mm,
yeah. So things are a bit
right.
different in this space. So for me, I think that's how a young person with an idea can make it here. That's generally, but
Mm,
we still do have a few that kind of do the VC growth at all costs kind of thing, and they also make it, but the percentage, I mean, is very low. It's very low.
right. We're about to conclude, and I know it may seem like an anticlimax for some people, but do you think that um, an African fintech can, that if it hasn't been done already, an African fintech produced or constructed or conceived on the African continent can successfully serve a wider range of clients beyond the borders of the continent? I know there's tap tap send and all that kind of stuff. I don't know whether most of them are actually not necessarily products that were built here. They are products that are externally that we are benefiting from. Do you think we can also invert it in the other way, where we build something that the US,
Yeah,
the UK, Europe at large will also be using
yeah,
as a benefactor to their
yeah,
economic growth?
yeah. So I think it's possible. For me, I don't think anything is impossible. And this is even
Mm,
easier to say because we've seen some people, make some strides there as well. So recently I heard about a product Flutterwave was launching in the US or something of the sort. Yeah.
mm, mm,
I
mm,
haven't seen it, so so I can't vouch for it. But yeah, we've seen African fintechs do stuff like that. And then, of course, in Ghana, we have ZPay,
mm,
which has launched in Barbados and has a license and etc. So
mm,
there are some
mm,
things that we can
mm.
export. It's probably easier for non-fintech products, okay, but yeah, fintechs are also doing it.
Let's talk about mobile money fraud and how fraud has become, as much as possible, a huge topic, and all over the world that people are just
Yeah.
complaining about fraud. What does that look like, and how can we mitigate it? Because people are constantly going through a lot of, people having people call them, and then people say, they're being, I don't know, hypnotized, whatsoever it
Social engineering.
is. I don't know. I don't know. Can social media? I mean, like, can tech? Can tech deal with that? If tech can, how can you, like, how can we mitigate the entire fraud space and mobile
Yeah.
money? Yeah.
So I think when it comes to fraud, it usually has to do with the individual, like the user. So if that is going to be solved, is education, is education to the user. And I've seen some banks, try to do that. Some fintechs try to do that. Like they send you some tips here and there. In fact, for me, I think if I want to simplify it, like to the most simple thing is don't share your password with anyone. Like no matter how
Mm,
nice the
mm.
conversation goes, once it gets to entering a pin or an OTP or something, just know that you have to stop.
Run.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. That's
Run.
that's that's how I'll break it down to make it simple. But of course, it's more
Mm,
complicated than that. The reason why I find fraud in fintech interesting or hilarious is that it's like our fraudsters in Ghana. Well, most of them they are just not smart. They are just not
mm.
smart. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
from their
Right.
writing skills to their speech
Mm,
and their technique, like they try to innovate, but it's almost always the same. And I'll show you some of the things that they
mm,
do. Of course, now they've become a bit more sophisticated, but I think usually for someone who is slightly educated, you should be able to detect when
mm,
someone is trying to defraud you. So surprisingly, I
mm,
mean, in spite of all of these things that I'm saying, they seem to be gaining ground. Okay, because I looked at
mm.
a report from the Bank of Ghana, and in 2021, 14 million Ghana cedis was involved in mobile money fraud and these others, right? 14 million Ghana cedis in 2021.
Wow.
And in 2022, it didn't get better. It almost doubled to 27 million. So it's like they are actually. So I was telling my wife recently that
Wow.
I think some people actually have a desk where they go to work in the morning and start the business like from morning till evening.
Mm,
And maybe their
mm,
hit
right.
rate is like 10%. So 10% of all the numbers they
Mm,
call, they make some good money on a daily basis.
right.
So all of that is contributing
Right.
to these numbers. It's quite surprising.
Right.
It's obvious that
Right.
the demographic that needs help with mobile money are those who are quite like illiterate, okay, and
Mm,
probably they are not even illiterate, but they are not tech savvy, and they need help.
right.
So,
Right.
unfortunately, what increases the financial inclusion rates in our space is what they are attacking because they are attacking these people who typically will not come and use financial services, like especially tech financial services. So it's
Mm,
really bad. I mean, in that light, it's hurting financial inclusion. How do they
mm,
perpetrate this fraud? I was saying that their approaches are becoming like they are becoming so like I don't know how to put it. Like it doesn't change, right?
They always appeal.
So
Yes, yeah.
they call they call pretending to be someone like you're doing business with. So I have people call me, and usually they will speak in the local dialect, maybe Chi or no,
Mm,
usually it's Chi. They don't speak too much of that. So he
mm,
calls me and he's like, "Aha,
mm.
Sikano, send the man number way." Then
Yeah, you have to say, you have to say that in
yeah,
English as
so
well.
that's like
So
Sika is like the number, the money, right? Then he's
the
like,
money.
the money I'm talking about, send it to this number. So imagine maybe
Mm,
you're doing a transaction with someone. Maybe you've bought like
mm,
say you're building. Okay, let's say you're painting your apartment and you've bought paint from someone, and you're going to send it by mobile money. If they do that kind of thing,
mm,
you may send the money, and I think they get people. Or maybe you've bought
mm,
something from someone and you've paid parts in cash, and the rest you pay later. Like so, there's some credit when they call you like that, you send the money to them, right? Especially if you don't,
mm,
I mean, listen to the voice and etc. These are simple things. Then there's also them calling to
mm,
be pretending to be a family member. So I've had calls
mm,
where I get a call from my auntie, my
mm,
auntie whose voice is like a man, and she's like,
mm,
and my auntie is like, "Oh, how are
mm,
you doing?" It's saying, "How are you doing?" This is your auntie, oh.
mm,
So I need some small money. Which auntie? Oh, your auntie, the one who calls you. I'm
mm.
like, dude,
Right,
you're not my
right.
auntie.
Just go
And the
away.
moment you say something like
Right,
that,
right.
they just cut the call, right? Then
Mm,
now they are
mm,
using other
mm,
channels like WhatsApp. I've seen that they target
mm.
WhatsApp groups. So they try to use social
Yeah,
engineering to
links.
take
These
over someone's
links.
WhatsApp with
Right.
the OTP stuff. And
Mm,
then they get into a group and they
mm,
start calling each person. There was a funny one recently. They
mm,
entered a certain group that I'm in. It's like a fintech group, right? And
mm,
everyone in the group got to know that like someone is doing this. So we were discussing in the group, and
mm,
apparently this guy was calling and saying that he's from the furniture group. So the fintech, he couldn't even read fintech. He says furniture. Like they are so
mm.
not smart. Recently, what's happening is
Right.
they are looking. This is more innovative, right? So in
Mm,
Ghana, when you are paying for something online, like the checkout, it's very simple in the sense
mm,
that you put your mobile money number in there, you type it on the web application,
mm,
and then it will send you
mm,
like a pull request. So you see
mm.
X and X company approve this transaction from X and X company. So you just put in
Right.
your PIN and then they take the money, right?
Right.
For like
Right.
3 months, occasionally I wake up in the morning and there's a pull request on my phone. Subscribe to such and such and such
Mm,
for 50 pesos per day. And I think early in the morning, like that, people are not awake. Like, so you just take it and put in
right.
your pin. And that's a standing order.
And I mean,
Like,
the
they
current
don't need
economy too
to
is
call anyone
exactly.
again. Like, every month, they'll deduct some money from
Mm, right.
yeah,
Right.
so
Right.
they're actually
Right.
getting
Right.
better at it. So that's what I'm saying. When it comes to these things, just no matter the circumstance, whatever it is, the moment you have to put in a pin or an OTP, think twice and it will help you.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. I I am just always cautious with like when it comes to links. I tell my parents a lot.
that
It's
you
not every
click
WhatsApp link that you should click.
the
It's not
phishing
everything that you
scams.
share that they say come. Just stop it. You know, save yourself from all the hustle that has we have to deal with having your your
Yeah,
phone hacked and all. So just be cautious out there. Yes, we're living in a global village, or we are living in a space where internet is allowing us to do good things. At the same time, the same people who went to read computer science to do the good things are some of them also
yeah,
chose a different path to do the bad things, because there's also money there. So just
yeah,
be cautious. And I think cybersecurity awareness is one of the things that I'll have an episode on that. We couldn't delve into that
right,
unfortunately because of the time, but cybersecurity awareness is very, very key. Some of these basic things are very, very important. Be aware about what's going on in the tech space, and not just be oblivious about it. Yeah.
exactly.
Do you have any mantra you live by?
Hmm.
Your personal mantra.
Nah, let me be honest. I really don't
Okay.
have one. Maybe if I think
Okay.
through, I'll remember, but on the spot, I can't remember.
That's fine.
Yeah.
In your final words, if you can give the top five skills that will make people stand out in this new tech wave with everything that is going on, AI, cybersecurity, fintech, blockchain, all that. If you could be that big brother, which you don't want to always hear, advising your young brothers who are about to get into this space, top five skills that you think they will need
Hmm.
to be able to succeed in this space, what would it be?
So, um, first off, I'll say resilience.
Mm,
You need to be tough mentally and probably physically as well. So
mm,
resilience, because a lot of things will come at you like unexpected, unexpected challenges. It's like at a point in your career, like you'll be waking up to problems every day. So
mm,
you need resilience. On the soft skills side, I think you should be a great communicator, especially for a software developer. Like you
mm,
need to be a great communicator. So that's spoken communication. Then your writing skills as well. I'm not talking about code and the rest because I know those people will have it down, but your writing skills, you should be able to write things in simple English. Okay,
mm,
no matter how technical it is, you should be able to write it for the regular person to understand.
mm.
So I've spoken about resilience, communication, your writing
Writing.
skills. Then there's one thing that I don't know how to describe, but maybe I'll call it product sense. Like
Mm,
you should be able to combine business with tech
mm,
through the lens of a customer,
mm,
okay, or through the lens of a user. So it includes problem solving, it includes like ideation, etc. Because if you even want to be an entrepreneur, I think all these skills I'm talking about somehow they're aligned with entrepreneurship, yeah. But
mm, mm,
the best, should I say, the best 9 to 5 workers are people who have entrepreneurship skills. That's for
mm,
sure. I mean, I have no
mm,
doubts. I have no
mm,
doubts because for me, that's what's helped me. If you have
mm,
entrepreneurship skills, you will be better than the other person who is in the same field with you because you
mm,
communicate better. You think more business level than just writing
mm,
your code. You will be
mm,
able to you'll be able to write and it's still communication. You'll be able to write things that
mm,
people can read in your absence and understand. You can write a
mm,
good report to your manager and
mm,
he wouldn't need to
mm,
see your face and he'll read
mm,
it and clap for you and be like, wow, this
mm,
software developer
mm,
is different.
mm, mm,
And if you're a consultant, I mean, for sure, those who write the best, who communicates the best, always stand out. And it frustrates
mm,
the guys who are very technical, and it will continue to
mm,
frustrate them, actually. So it's those are, I mean, if you don't have, like, if you're a software engineer and you're not writing good code or you're not able to get that down, then you've already, I mean, you're already knowing the discussion. But I'm saying after you
mm.
have the technical skills down, these are the
Right,
things that will
right.
separate you from the rest. And
Mm, mm,
and I think yeah, that those would help you stand out, and
mm.
they'll help
All
you
right.
be a better entrepreneur as well.
Philip, thank you so much. I think for me, thank you for being a model to look up to. When I came to uni, we're all in the same Christian Union, National Union of Baptist Students, and he
Yeah,
was, I think, the financial secretary, right?
yeah.
And you were just always, someone we could look up to. Apart from you being very tall, it was very obvious that we could see. Apart from you very tall, we could obviously look up to you. But it was always, in terms of the way you speak, and the way every time you had the chance to, communicate anything that had to do, personal development, mentorship, and all that. Even have someone who eventually became your doppelganger, Vitalis, if he's
Ah,
going to be
yeah.
listening to this. But it's just nice to see how you've been able to maintain that standard and to see the things you're doing. Every time I see you on LinkedIn or see you at a talk, when I saw you at the legal tech conference. I was like, yeah, that is it. Like that's what we're talking
Nah, we
about,
thank
where
God.
we get it. Yes, and so thanks for being a game changer and also giving us something to look
My
forward
pleasure.
to,
My
and
pleasure.
also
It's a big
and
pleasure to
also
me.
yes, and also I'm excited to see the next thing you're going to do. I don't know what it looks like as an independent consultant. I'm not even ready to think about being
I may
independent
go
just
back
yet.
to regular consulting, but who knows?
That's fair.